with expressionsvinyl.com, and today I'm going to show you a fun layering technique that I called stripe layering. And these are just a couple of examples. So you can use this technique for both adhesive and heat transfer vinyl. These two right here, this bottle and this clipboard, are examples of the stripe layering using adhesive vinyl, and these are from the Luster collection. And these other examples are all heat transfer vinyl, and you can see that it's a variety of different types of HTV. Right here I have our Caesar easyweed, our glitters, some more glitters, and some strip flock. And I just want to show you really quick the other types of HTVs that we do carry. In all of these you can use the same method, just different cut settings and different temperatures. So stripe layering is a very simple technique to use, and basically it's getting different types of heat transfer vinyl of the same line and just cutting strips and putting them on top of each other to make it look like it's multi-layered, but you're actually cutting and applying it all in one layer. So to get started on this, first you're going to need is your mat, and then the important part is the carrier sheet. If you're not familiar with what a carrier sheet, it comes on your HTV. This is the front side of your heat transfer and the adhesive side's on the back. So when you peel your corner, you can see that the vinyl and the adhesive side peel away from the plastic carrier sheet. This is exactly what we're going to be using, so make sure that you do not discard whenever you finish applying your vinyl onto your shirt. So make sure to save these because these come in handy, especially when doing this technique. And I have a couple of examples. These are just images that I've cut before, and I've saved the carrier sheets. And some are in different sizes. This one is a nice size, and you can see I've used it multiple times, but they're still sticky and reusable, so you can use it multiple times. If you happen to have smaller pieces, you can still use them. You can tape them together if you need to make it a little bit bigger and don't have a full sheet size or a bigger size. So these little pieces could still be used for this type of layering technique. This one is a carrier sheet from the glitter, and I don't recommend using the carrier sheet from glitter just because it still has glitter on it and it's not as sticky as the other carrier sheets from the other vinyls. So my recommendation is to just go ahead and discard the glitter carrier sheet. Alright, so the first thing you're going to do is make sure that you have your mat ready and grab your clear sheet, and you're just going to put it on to your mat. And this mat isn't fully sticky, so I'm just going to tape it with some transfer tape just on the edges, just to make sure that it's secure. And the next thing, once you find what type of vinyl you're going to use, you just cut them into strips. It does not matter how big or how small. Usually I do mine about 1 inch, maybe 2 inches, depending on how much of the color I want to be exposed onto my image, as well as how big my image is. And the other neat thing is it really doesn't matter how many colors you use. You could add, every layer can be a single different color. You can add the same color. It's really up to you on how many colors you want to add, so it's always fun to mix and match colors and see the overall look for that. So I have all my pieces already cut, and I always lay it out to where I can see the color and then just kind of figure out how I want my colors to appear in order, or you can just do it by random and just begin applying it onto the sheet. So I'm just going to quickly organize them into a color that I like. So once you get that all figured out, you can go ahead and just turn them over. That way you know where to begin because they will be cut on the adhesive side. And my carrier sheet's on my mat, so the next step is pretty simple. You just start putting them onto the carrier sheet, and the carrier sheet quickly adheres to the other carrier sheet from the vinyl strip, so just make sure that they're straight. And you just lay them down and they have no problem sticking or coming off. And you just repeat. So you just want to make sure that there's no empty spaces, otherwise your image is going to look a little bit spaced out. So it's pretty easy to just keep them lined up. So there's that part. My image is about 5 inches tall, so we are good to where it all fits. And there's a couple things you can do. You can trim off the excess, or you can just do that once you start weeding. I'm just going to leave them on and trim it once I start weeding. And if you have these little pieces that are sticking up, I just use transfer tape just to keep them down, just to be safe. And I like to rub my application tool across just to make sure that it adheres well to the carrier sheet. And there you go. The next thing you would do is just put it through the feeder, sand cut, and get ready to weed. Alright, so once you finish cutting, go ahead and remove the pieces of transfer tape if you did apply it. And always make sure to do a weeding box because that helps see where your image is, especially where these are separate pieces. You don't want the wrong piece to weed out. So I always start finding my weeding box either at one of these corners, and I just remove that little section. And I usually just trim around the box. Okay, so once I have cut around my weeding box, I'm going to start getting on the outside so I can see what to weed on the inside. Just make sure that you go slow, just so you don't weed out any part that's not needed, just because it's not a continuous cut line to where you can just rip apart the vinyl as you typically would if it was one single color. Okay, so once you finish weeding, I'm going to show you how to remove it off of the mat. And it's actually pretty easy. I still have a little bit of transfer tape, so I'm just going to remove that piece. And then I'm going to flip it over on its back and remove the mat from the carrier sheet. And now we can go ahead and apply it to our shirt. So I'm going to press my shirt for a couple seconds just to get any moisture right before I press the vinyl on. And then I'm going to leave the carrier sheet on. You can remove it once you put it on your shirt, but since it keeps it all together, it makes sense for me just to leave it on. So once your image is on, just go ahead and press for the full 15 seconds just because it is the only layer that we have. Okay, so then you can go ahead and remove the carrier sheet, and if the other strips of carrier sheet come off, that is totally fine. And then just go ahead and remove the individual strips. Alright, and there you go. That is one way that you can layer multiple colors of vinyl into one cut and one application. So one thing that I did want to point out is that when you do this technique, to make sure that you stay within the same type of HTV. For example, make sure that you do your glitters with the glitters and your easyweed with easyweed. You don't want to combine both of these just because the cut settings are different and the temperature settings are different as well. If you were to mix glitter with easyweed, the easyweed will get cut through all the way and it won't be as effective of an overall finish. So just keep that in mind. So if you have any questions, make sure to put it under the comments and make sure to subscribe, and we'll talk to you later. Thanks so much. Bye.